Ready, ready,
Yep,
ready.
here we are.
Okay.
All
Let's
right, now wait for it on YouTube.
see. Let's see if we're as we should be. There we are.
Yep, here we
Yep.
are.
We are live on a Friday
Perfect.
night.
Happy Friday!
All right, I need to close this one because yeah, we are good. So we will share it on the old Facebook. Actually, let's
Yep. So again, I got your post. I'll
you got your
always do
post?
that.
Okay. All right, let's see who's here. All right. But today we are going to be talking about auroral not sub subaurora
And regular
phenomenon
Aurora.
and auroral phenomenon because especially after last week's big event, there was a lot of questions in the various groups about what people were seeing. So we thought it would be really cool to go over these things and maybe help everybody figure out what they're looking at. So I'm gonna
Or
do
at
a quick
least get like the
little.
common ones. A lot of people looked at, the SAR arc, of course. That was a very popular one out for October 10th.
Oh yeah, and then because there's
And
a
people have asked
lot
about the green arc.
of there's a the SAR arc in general has been out a lot
True, there's been
um
several of them this month.
because we have had a lot of very high energetic events. So I can't even spell. This is bad, and it's not. Oh, so I'm just gonna post it because yeah.
That's fine.
I, I
People know we're
can't
here.
spell. I can't do
Hi,
anything,
everybody that's coming in.
but it's okay. So yeah, anyway, anywho, it's
In
gonna be a
true
fun little
fashion.
discussion. And I want to give a shout out to the Aurora Summit that is going on right now. So that should be a fun time. I know that, a bunch of our friends are over there and there's a lot of good speakers.
We got
So
Dr. Liz McDonald speaking for the
yeah,
keynote tonight.
yeah,
That
it's
should be
exciting.
good.
It should be good.
I believe she's talking about Aurorasaurus as well, so it's only appropriate.
Yeah, only appropriate. I will preface this also comes at a good time because there was a really awesome Aurora field guide that has been actually I'm going to drop that in the chat too.
Good call.
Because if you haven't seen this guide, this is actually kind of what we're basing all of this on. It was released by a team of, well, scientists and citizen science, and yeah, it's just really good. Actually, most everything I put in here is kind of based on this because they have it really well organized. So if you haven't looked at it or downloaded it, I dropped it in the chat, and
It
then
is
afterwards I
thorough.
will put it in the description. So anyway, but I figured we'd start off with Christian here going over the current space weather, which we have some, but not a lot.
So I'm gonna go ahead and just say this is the first week in God 5 or 6 maybe that hasn't had some sort of fun, cool thing to show off. So as of right now, I'm just gonna show off some things that I found particularly cool going on in the sun, which is there is a really cool prominence on the eastern limb that's doing some dancing. And I tried to make it as bright as I could, but it's a fairly faint prominence. Now, this is I'm gonna actually speed this up a bit more. I'm doing 80 frames per second, and I have 1,000 frames over the last 2 weeks, roughly. Or sorry, 2 weeks, 2 days even. So it's moving pretty fast, even relative to, film. But the idea is there's just sweet little prominence here. Now, it looks pretty sweet here, but it looks even cooler in looking at the Corona in 211, and it's one of those we'll call like a tornado. I don't actually know the structure name for this, but
I've
it's
heard of
literally just like a
vortex
tornado. Looks
tornado.
like it's spinning across a single point, which I'm pretty sure it's moving back and forth at this point. It's just hard to see when you're doing so fast, but that's a pretty cool feature. As far as space weather is concerned, we have a couple of kernel holes at least, so some sort of weather. There's a couple of big filaments that could erupt as well, but looking at the kernel holes first, we have this northern hemisphere one, which I believe, if I'm going to check really quickly as well, that it is a negative polarity one, but I definitely could be wrong on that one. Actually, here, let's just do star. Pretty sure.
Yeah, I've been waiting for that filament to let go. I mean, it's in a good spot. Not that it matters too much because we still have quite a big moon to deal with.
Yeah, this full moon's a much brighter one than normal too, so it's been pretty interruptive with everything, including the comet, which has taken a pretty far drop in brightness. Positive coronal hole, I was wrong there. So we have that kicking in now, actually. It started kicking in last night, it looks like, at least the CIR part of it. We especially because it's moved quite a bit further and it's likely going to go on for the next day or two. Will it overpower the full moon? I wouldn't count too much on it, but the Aurora Summit has at least a chance of Aurora tonight, so that'll be
Maybe.
fun. And then we have a also a coronal hole here, very small, but it is technically trans-equatorial and it is also positive polarity. At this point, where it's mattering less and less about the polarities, so really not a huge deal anymore. But at this point, and Glasgow as well. That's the other thing I wanted to get to. As a CME watch, which again, this is over about, I think 4 days is what I did the full video on. And really, I only see two or three. It's
There
not
was
to say it's necessarily a quiet sun,
there was one
but
far-sighted one that was really
hmm
big.
there's been a few liftoffs too. I've seen a few like
Yeah.
filaments release and a couple other ones. So like that, I wish that was a front side, but I'm
Yeah,
fairly certain
that's
that
the
was a far
one.
side.
That's the one.
hmm And then the last part, so we're not going to spend too much time on this, but just looking at current sunspots, we are clearly over solar maximum at this point. This does not mean that we're going to be lacking in activity, but does mean that on average over the next several months, we're going to see slightly less than the last 6 months or so. Um, I don't really see a lot of complex sunspots going on right now. We've got this region that was getting there, but it's simplified immensely. Mostly a bunch of bipolar stuff just sitting all around. I don't see too terribly much flare potential unless we get more growth here. This is the biggest potential we've got. I'll be honest, I did not look up the active region names, but I am fairly certain that it really doesn't matter at this point because we can just find out what it is.
Yeah, if it starts flaring, then we'll pay attention to it, right?
But I will say, over the next last day, that whole middle region I was thinking about faded. So we just have the two spots. I mean, we really don't have a lot going on here. This could be, I bet that's probably multiple polarities, but I did not load the magnetogram imaging on this. So not a ton going on. As far as again, Aurora Summit, expect maybe some Aurora this weekend if you can shoot through the supermoon, lovely full moon ruining things again. I will say at least Sunday night, there's a couple hours that it'll be dark and we'll at least have no moon. So you get a chance.
Yeah, so if you're
That's
still comet chasing, even though the comet's getting dimmer and dimmer by the day, but
if
we'll
we,
see.
yeah, if we want a comet update, the last one I saw was it hit magnitude 3.5 officially, but I saw an observation for magnitude 4, that's +4. So it's getting very dimmy compared to last like 5 days ago.
Yeah. Oh well. Oh well.
There will be more.
Yeah, there will be more. There always seems to be. So anyway, we'll mosey on to a part two of our stream today. And that's Auroral Forums, what everybody is probably here for. So I will share my
Yay.
screen. Share. Sharing is caring.
At least in this case.
Yeah. So let me know. Does that work? Everybody can
Yep,
see
you're
that?
good.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna move it to this screen so it looks like I'm actually looking at you all. We'll start the slideshow. And I listed because I basically based this off of the new Aurora Field Guide for Citizen Science because like I said, it's very well done. It's very concise, it's very organized. Instead of just like, putting all these things into random order, we actually have an order. So, and like,
Random is good.
yeah, sometimes. But we're gonna start with what the two main uh things with the main band features is discrete and diffuse aurora, um, and the differences between them. So we have discrete with quiet and active arcs. Now, most of this stuff is kind of what you see in the high Arctic regions. Usually us in the middle latitudes, we don't see these too much because we're far away. So both of these images are from Fairbanks area. And you see the one has a very quiet, the one here that like it's just a single ribbon, and that's all it is, and that's all it was. Just a single ribbon. So that's your quiet one. You get more of its active ones. And what's kind of neat about this is you can actually have several ribbons in parallel with each other. There are some other things
Makes
going
a
on
good
in these.
corona.
Was that, yeah. I know, almost like a Corona, but yeah, that's basically an active arc. It's not doing anything super fancy. there is some other things going on here too. And you'll find that even when you're out in the field is you won't really get, a straight, this is just what this is. You'll likely have other things going on in the meantime. I did put a couple little videos in here because I wanted to show
Yay.
off this. This is the world's tiniest Aurora that I've ever caught, and it's barely there. It made me laugh on the airplane because I'm like, oh, it's trying so hard.
It's just a single baby arc, which I guess you can see a little bit more of a structure of it being
Yeah.
longer. But yeah,
So would
that
that
one
be
tiny glowing part from that
quiet,
distance.
a quiet arc? I yeah.
It's like the quiet arc didn't get, or the active arc didn't get the memo that there's supposed to be quiet arc.
It was trying, it really was. But I thought it was cute, so I threw it in
The
here.
little arc that could.
Yeah, the little arc that could.
A lot of different
Um,
funny things that could be done through this.
yeah. And then we move on to rays and pillars, and a lot of people are familiar with these. Um, I also pulled in some images that people shared with me on Facebook as they fit into these different things. And if it's not credited, it came out of my collection of images. So I actually had quite a few of these. There's some that I didn't get to, but so rays, they're kind of self-explanatory. They're big pillars, they're naked eye, they can last for a long time. Many can appear at one time. They just kind of move across. Um, so that's about it on rays. And then we have bands, beads, curls, folds, and spirals. This is all of the various different morphology of Aurora in the main band. I left it on here to kind of describing what they are. Bands are twisting random forms. Beads are bright or spaced bright fe or evenly spaced bright features, and they often occur right before substorm onset. So they're kind of a cool little thing to look out for because that means a substorm's probably about to happen. Our friend Vincent is doing a lot of his grad work on beads, and so it's been fun watching him study this. And then we got curls and folds, where and you can read there, they twist counterclockwise in northern hemisphere, clockwise in the southern hemisphere with curls. Spirals are interesting because they're kind of like curls and folds, but they actually move the opposite direction. So, and then I pulled some pictures too. The pictures that have the labels on them are from that document that I linked. These are because I don't have examples of them, so I had to pull some in, which is fine. But it does a great job explaining, like you can see the beads, curls, folds, spirals, and this is just a band, another fun Fairbanks trip of mine. Coronas, everybody's favorite, the overhead.
Literally.
Yeah, the overhead goodness that we all get. I put another little live video in here, so I'll just actually fast forward to the better
What was
part.
that from?
It was from Fairbanks, but this shows the how the corona comes over, how it moves, how it just kind of moves across. Um, this was one of my first live or real-time videos of a corona, but you could see me getting in the way of it because I forget that a 12 mm lens is very wide. But everybody loves coronas. They get all excited about it, especially when we see them in these middle latitudes. Um, like we did a week ago. But up in Alaska, they're pretty commonplace. I
Yeah.
I don't even
Even when
think,
they're not as visible.
yeah, I want to say this wasn't even geomagnetic storm level. It might have been, or just barely, but this is the kind of stuff you get at those high latitudes. So it's
Ah, look at
pretty,
the twinkling.
I know, it's pretty cool.
Also, your dragon Corona is still
Yeah,
a huge
because that's
hit.
my favorite Corona
Like
image
it's even got red coming out of the mouth. Come on.
I
It
know.
doesn't get more dragon than that.
Yeah, because for once this is one that didn't look like a bird to me. It actually had like a different animal, so I thought it
That's a
was
good
kind of
point.
cool.
I've had a lot that look like butterflies and a lot that look like a phoenix, I
Yeah,
think.
phoenix
But this
birds.
looks very
People say
dragon-like.
angels a lot, but
Hmm.
to me that looked like a dragon, so I keep it. All right, where's my next Western? Did I skip one? I don't think I skipped one, but
I don't think so.
okay, this one's the Western Traveling Surge. So this is on the substorm onset, and it's seen as a bulge that on in an arc on the poleward side, like a whip. And I have a video here, and I'm gonna try to mute it because I don't think you guys can hear it anyway. But there's other things going on in this video too. But what I wanted to point out is that you can see that whip-like shape towards the right-hand side of the video and how it just kind of pushes its way through. It was one of the coolest auroras that I've seen up there because the pink, it was very, very fast, as you can see in this video.
It's very
Uh,
fun being underneath of that band when that band expands much further south than Fairbanks,
yeah.
so it's overhead instead.
So
Oof,
with
that pink is just, it's fallen to the ground so quickly, it looks like.
yeah, it was crazy. This is after I tripped and fell and hit my head too. So that was fun.
Oh, it was that storm so March.
Yes, it was that one.
Okay,
All
that
right.
makes a little more sense then. That was a
And
pretty
then
good shot.
we have enhanced aurora. So this is a particularly thick and well-defined lower edge. I have a couple images of this, but I couldn't quite find all of them, so I pulled this one in. But you just get this very defined edge on the bottom here, and it's quite bright. Um, and like I said, sometimes occurs during substorm onset. That's usually when I see it. And you can get these very, very, very bright edges on it, and they're very defined.
I'd
And
say they
that's
were very
another.
popular when the substorm first hit
Mhm.
on October as well.
Yeah, this was shot with my modified camera too, so it picks up the red. Now we move into diffuse aurora. So this is more like um where you have featureless aurora without clear structure. And I will point out a couple things because um this middle image actually has some other things going on here, right in this section. Actually, it looks like the bands. But I put it in here for this right here because that's the veil, or it's featureless, but it's quite wide. And even when I remember watching this unfold that one night, it almost took up the whole sky eventually. It was just like this green, I mean, that's why they call it a veil. It's like a green veil that just kind of comes over. Another good example is with the trees here and the this one taken outside of Delta Junction. It's just you don't get a lot of features, but it's neat. It's still neat to see.
It's
So I
colors
don't
the
I don't
sky
discount it.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then we can get
Um,
proton aurora in that too. Actually,
mhm.
most of that is.
And then we got Omega bands. So I don't have any pictures of Omega bands, believe it or not.
Same.
So I had to pull them in. But they're named after the Greek letter omega, thus the shape. More often seen in the morning sector, so after midnight is when you'll see these. And from a distance, you can see several of them. Um, these are all, I believe, high latitude images or darn near high latitude images, where you just kind of get closer to that oval, so you get more of these features that you can differentiate out of where we're at, where we just basically see pillars a lot of times.
I've seen
And
a
we
few
get
satellite
solids in
images of
these.
these two from up above, and they legitimately do look like
Yeah,
omegas
they
from
do.
above.
Yeah, that's the one thing I didn't put in here is satellite imagery, because you can really pick out those shapes. This one here actually has pulsing aurora in it. You can tell by these um little hoofs here.
Love when the pulsing involves the nitrogen too.
Yeah, I do too. Speaking of pulsing aurora, here we go. This
Next.
this is usually in the recovery phase. I know everybody was talking about the pulsing from last week and
Hmm.
how intense it was, and it was. It's best caught in video, or watching it because still images just don't catch it. Like you look at this image on the left, you don't really know that that was a like you could tell it's a pulsing aurora just by the shape of it, but you don't get the motion of it. And this video is probably kind of dark, but it shows the pulsing.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I didn't get a chance to lighten it up. This is just raw video, but you can actually see the pulses that come through. And that's what I mean about how you can't really photograph it. You have to really video the pulsing aurora to get the full effect of it. And it's neat to watch. It really is. It's like strobe lights almost. I guess dim strobe lights.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen like there were a couple occasions where they can get pretty bright too.
Yeah.
It can be anywhere from camera only to holy crap, the sky is vibrating.
Yeah, it's definitely it's cool. You see it in the recovery phases, but as we have learned throughout this journey, you can have a substorm on top of substorm. So you can have one in recovery and then one starting. So you can have all these different things going on at the same time, which is something that did happen last week.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I was in a soup of color and
yeah,
shapes and form. It was ridiculous. I didn't know how to quantify everything.
I didn't either. And we'll get to that too, 'cause I think I have one of those pictures in here. So giant undulations, this I haven't really seen. Um,
Same.
so this is so it's a wavy edge on the equatorward side of the diffuse aurora, usually before midnight. So this would be in the dusk sector. They're large structures. I personally haven't seen this yet, so maybe one day I will. So I don't have
We need
much
a
to
bingo
comment on
card.
it. And this is a fairly new discovery, the dunes, and I haven't seen this either. It's I want to say from the paper that I read that it's caused by atmospheric heating. Um, and there's and along the different field lines, but right here, local magnetic field direction is shown by the auroral pillars. It's almost vertical purple structure, so it's pretty cool.
It's a pretty
Um,
strong photo of them too.
yeah,
Normally they're a little more stoopy diffuse.
yeah, this is one of the better pictures I've seen of it, but it's in that guide as well. And what they say what's neat about is when you see them is the diffuse aurora seems to flow like water over top of them.
That's
So
cool.
that would be really cool to see. So I gotta put this on the list now, as if we have a say in this.
I mean, no, not really.
Yeah, it's like
Still, a
whatever
bingo card would be
happens,
cool.
happens. So, but yeah, dunes, I'd like to see them. And then now we can start to get into these proton auroras, which is something that we saw quite a bit of last week as well. Um, IPA, not to be confused with the different types of beer out there. This is
Ah,
isolated proton aurora. So you can see in these images, they're separate from the main band. This one, it's facing this image I took, it's facing south, so you can see the blob over top of it coming in the frame. This is a better
yeah.
example that Tanya got because you can see these individual little blobs out in front of the main auroral band here. And that's typically how you can see or you can get into what if you're seeing proton type auroras because they're kind of a little bit separate from the main band anyway. Now here's one that I don't know really anything about. This is new to me. I believe I've seen these before. And I
I
think
want
in
to
the
say for
groups,
sure
I think in
have
the groups, some people confuse these for Steves because
many times.
they look almost white to the eye, but it's made up of all the different colors combining together to create a white or off-white appearance. So I think this is where some of the confusion's coming in between Steve's and Aurora. Like you might get that big pillar that looks like a Steve, but it's more than likely one of these guys. Um, so keep a lookout for Continuum.
Also, hey Les, look at your photo.
Yeah. And then we have fragments. So if you ever get little tiny fragments, like kind of just they like meandering around, they don't know where they're at. They're just here and here and here. I guess, in typical science discussion, oh yeah, they're just fragments. They're over here. Yeah, this is what they do. It's kind of neat because their orientation is perpendicular to the magnetic field direction. That's probably the coolest part about going through all this is figuring out like you're actually looking at magnetic field lines um visually, which is quite cool because we don't get to see that. We don't get to see magnetic fields, unless
Only by the tracers that they have.
yeah, exactly. So
And
this is
fun fact, I've actually photographed some fragments before,
did you?
completely by luck, but they are completely visible to the naked eye too at the time that they're there, and they're barely there for a minute or two.
That's
At least
cool.
the occasions I saw.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen fragments yet. So I'll keep a lookout for them now. So now we're going
2021
to
was
get
a fun month.
into subauroral optical emissions. So this is a popular topic because everybody wants to see a Steve. Everybody loves Steves. Um, it's that big mauve purplish band that goes from east to west, like all the way across the sky. A lot of times, sometimes not, but it's quite striking. It's very naked eye visual or visible. It usually is accompanied by picket fences and looking things, and it's subauroral, so it's always away from the main aurora oval. Um, and I was going to ask you, what was that thing I was going to tell you? Tell me what.
Yes, SEDS,
Yeah,
so
SEDS.
caused by suborbital ion drifts when you've got a current going up in that area and you have ions moving very, 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 very fast, and they knock against all the neutral atoms in that area of the atmosphere, which is what causes the glow initially, for SAR arcs at least. And then again, Steve's might evolve from that, and if the sets get faster. But it's a really fun acronym to
Yeah, that's why I asked you to remember it because I wasn't going to
have.
remember it, and I didn't.
One that I
So,
finally have memorized for the 2 words.
so thank you for that. Um, but here's another great picture. No, gotta go back. Back. There we go. That Justin got because it's a nice panel that shows the Steve, and it shows the it's got the little bit of the picket fencing in here. You can see that kind of goes down across the main part of it.
The
Um,
reflection of the Milky Way too, how it's 90 degrees off from the Milky Way, just
mhm.
perfectly conveys the east to west compared to the south to north.
Yep, because you
Good
see the
shot,
main,
Justin.
yeah, the main band's right here, and then this is your suborbital phenomenon here. Um, it's cool. This was one of those citizen science discoveries. The Alberta Aurora chasers were the ones that got to name it, and then science acronymed it. Um, but for the longest time, the science fields knew about it, but they didn't realize that it was actually visual. They had it photographed in different various wavelengths, but they didn't realize that people were seeing this on the ground. So that was kind of one of those cool citizen science stories. It's similar with the SAR arc. That it was another one of those things that science knew was there, but didn't realize that this is something that people could see. So
Further
that
emphasizing the point of citizen science and
Yeah,
why it's
citizen
needed.
science. So we've had a fun little, part in all this. It's been and then learning about it all. It's a challenge because none of
My
this
favorite
is
part.
easy by any means, but it's neat to be a part of this whole journey and process. So speaking of SAR arcs, now we're moving on to that, as this has been the topic of discussion since we've seen it a lot lately. And
Hmm.
Christian got said that in his picture there that was naked eye visible. Because a lot of times it's not. You'll see it in you'll see it in long exposure. But as these intense storms become more intense and they drive more energy into the ring current and energize it more, it gets brighter and brighter and brighter. So you can really tell that we've had our poor magnetosphere has been beat up.
During the fun Monday storms, the ones that were really red, people got a SAR arc down here in Ohio as well, actually quite
Yep.
a bit, but only through camera. It was never visible to the eye. And then we got this one Thursday that ended up being naked eye visible too. So it was a cool contrast.
I bet it was compounded, because the magnetosphere never really got a chance to recover.
Oh, I'm sure.
And
And
then
it
the
would
other
happen
one just
twice
came
too.
in.
It was right after the substorm first when it hit nightfall here, and then the second one was, of course, right after the second one at like 10 or 10:30.
Yeah, it's neat. So yeah, we've been having fun with these suborbital. The one thing is though, we haven't really seen too many Steves. We've seen a lot of SARs.
Seen none. Nope.
There was a Steve with the October 10th event.
The UK got it, it sounds
The
like too.
UK got it. Yeah, it was I think the picture I saw came out of France. Um, but that answered my question because it seemed like we just weren't getting them anymore with these higher energy events. But I stand
Timing.
corrected. Yeah, it's just timing. So it was there. There was photographic proof of such. The last main one with the suborbital stuff is something called a
Ragda.
ragda, red arc with
Seen
green
this a
diffuse
lot now.
aurora. We've been seeing this a lot too, probably because we had these higher energetic events and they're very blobby. And what I love about these descriptions is I mean, they're pretty, this is what it is. It's red arc with green diffuse aurora. So
Scientists are pretty special in naming things. They've
yeah,
always
so at
have.
least if you see a red arc with green diffuse aurora, then you saw a ragda.
So descriptive. I usually see it, at least visually, you can see it as like red pillars even. So you've got
Mhm.
the arc is kind of diffuse, but it certain times you can see it in pillar form too as it's moving. So if you do really quick exposures and then the green, it's just green patch. Like the proton aurora looks no different. But
Yeah,
sometimes it just looks like red arcs that are moving really fast if you do a fast enough shutter time.
they do move fast. The picture that I have here in the corner, that came up over the trees. Like, I don't know, it was 5 minutes. It was just like this wall of light that just came over the trees.
Yep.
And
I saw the proton aurora do that a couple times too. You can watch it move through the main band and then actually go higher and just almost overhead. I think I saw it at least two or three different times, October 10th.
it's definitely a neat thing to see. But it is a suborbital phenomenon. So it's always kind of mostly in front of that main band. But I wanted to show this picture here because the truth is you're gonna get a mixed bag of things. This has a lot going on it that this was after the main part of that October 7th event. So we got the SAR arc here. This is all pulsing aurora up here. Then you got pillars and the regular stuff over here. It's just you're just gonna get a mixed bag of different phenomena going on at the same time. So I'll look at images and be like, I'm not quite sure what's all in here. Because sometimes it's not super obvious. And it just and some of it is we still are starting to just describe these things too. Like even just we were talking before going live here, because it used to just be called proton aurora. Like you'd hear proton aurora
just as a blanket term.
as a blanket term. But now we have Steve, SAR, those IPAs. Like we're starting to, give names to these different things because they are a little different. So if you're not quite sure what it is, odds are it's probably like if it's a proton like Aurora, it's probably one of those things. But then they can evolve into other things too.
Exactly.
So
Let's be fair. I mean, we're still fresh in these sciences, so there's a good chance that a lot of these are connected or changed from one to another some way. They're more than likely at least connected generally, so we just have to figure out how that's done.
yeah, so that's the and that's where the citizen science comes in handy because we've been able to give them visual data to work with, and then they could figure out like time wise, like triangulate things. 'Cause that's how they figured out the dunes, like where it was in the altitude. Because then if they can tie all this stuff together, then we can put together a story on like how Aurora like evolves throughout, um, dusk to dawn and all that fun stuff. So
Dusk
it's
to dawn and from beginning to end.
yeah, so it's been fun. And then a couple other notes here. One is a great red aurora, because we saw a couple of these this year too, with these higher energetic events. Um, I will always remember this August 11th one because it was intense.
I mean, look
The
how oversaturated the red pixels are.
Yeah, the
Was
red
that
was just
your astro modified one too?
what's the yeah, this was the astro modified one, so it was
That
even
would make
worse.
sense
But
too. It'd be
but
oversaturated.
it was just naked eye, it was just blood red. You're like, okay, like that's pretty crazy. And I guess the other when I was talking to Liz about this, the other differentiating factor with the Great Red Aurora is they don't last very long. It's usually like less than a half hour. And they can be seen, naked eye and in places you might not normally see them. Like this was seen in Chicago.
So then this would have been October 10th would have had one as well, right? I
Yeah,
want to say about 5 minutes after the substorm broke to the west, there was just a blood red patch that
blood
was
red.
easily visible.
Yeah.
It was
And
almost
then
stealing the show from the remaining of it.
it really was. And then even on October 7th, or no, 6th. It was the night before when
That Saturday or that Sunday night or Monday night, because
yes,
those were the two Aurora
because
nights.
I think I sent you that picture of the lighthouse where like the whole lake was blood red.
Yeah, I think
So
that was Sunday
we've
night then.
had a number of these, and they're usually tied with it like as intense magnetic storms, and we've had a number of very intense magnetic storms. So it kind of makes sense that we're seeing more of this. And then the other was the Black Aurora. This one still kind of gets me. Like I don't know if I'd be able to positively ID a Black Aurora.
No, or
I've had
properly explain it.
Yeah, I've had people send me pictures like, is this Black Aurora? And I'm like, I'm not entirely sure because to me, that's just a, I mean, they say it's an absence of aurora within a diffuse emission. So that's just like the light isn't there. So I don't, that's kind of how I interpret it. And I
It's like
don't
a
really,
pillar of no Aurora
yeah, like it's
within a
just
diffuse.
something's
Yeah,
not being lit up in that section right there. That's how I get it. So
yeah.
this one still kind of confuses me a little bit. Because to me, it's just devoid of the light. Um, and that wouldn't really be Aurora to me, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Kind of with you
But
there. The confusion level is pretty equal.
yeah, it's neat though. People will still ask about it, and usually if you have these voids, and I guess they say it's you typically in the diffuse emissions is when you're going to see this. Then it's probably Black Aurora, but again, I'm not entirely sure on it, just because of my definition of well, if it's not there, then it's not there.
What are you naming?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
but
Which means probably we don't. There's probably something happening we just don't get. So that's my
yeah.
guess.
And I'm sure maybe somebody will chime in on it, but that's kind of all I had. I don't know if we have any questions from anybody, but I thought it was pretty straightforward. um with this presentation because we didn't want to go too deep into you know, all of this because what we could do, because it's long enough just to get through just the list. Um, but what we could do is tackle one subject at a time, like SAR arc, and go into that deeper. Like, what is it? What causes it? Why are we seeing it more? Like things like that. Because you could go into you could have entire shows just on each individual
Individual
little
ones.
segment.
I think
But
it would make sense to do, the popular ones that are seen more commonly as well.
yeah, SA we probably should do SAR at least because
Oh,
then.
for sure. I wouldn't mind doing a full breakdown on that one. That'd be
Mm.
fun.
So that's kind of all we got for today, but hope you got something out of it. As usual.
A quiet show.
Yeah, I know.
No reporting on major things.
I know we have nothing. We didn't get derailed this week. It was
A
kind of a
nice
blessing
break.
in disguise. But so yeah, if we don't get derailed next week, maybe we'll go into SAR or like start picking these things apart. The other idea I had was other optical phenomenon. So maybe we'll do that. Because the other thing that we saw on the forums is lens flares, airplanes,
The
air
contrails.
glow,
Yep, yep.
um, contrails, clouds,
I'm
all
pretty
these
sure I
things that
saw
are.
80% contrails to 20% comet this week.
Yes. So I'm thinking maybe we'll do something like that, to help people better ID things in the sky if they're looking at satellite versus meteors versus airplanes versus all, because there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah.
Um, and moon bows, because we have a lot of optical effects right now with the full moon being up. You'll get some of the like the way it glows on the ground. Sometimes it could look like something else.
Moonbows.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things we could discuss in that realm as well. So either one of those will probably either divulge into SAR or optical illusions. And that's what I
Sounds
got.
fun.
Alrighty. So on that note, I will let you guys go and
Thanks
have
for the
a
late night join, everybody.
yes, and
Except for
have a
you down under
I know,
southern
enjoy your
hemispheres.
Saturday afternoon. And if you have any Aurora left, maybe you'll see some with the moonlight, but it doesn't look like it's going to be anything that spectacular, so maybe not.
Pretty heavy moon.
Yeah, it's a pretty heavy moon, so we'll have to wait till it goes away. But you'll have a great day now, and we will see you next week.